had one tenant that didn't pay the rent for 18 months during COVID, and I had to go right the way up to doing the eviction process. There was a backlog at that time, and then I had to get a high court writ to evict her, which I didn't want to do that because she'd always been a great tenant, but she'd met a guy that told her otherwise, and she chose to listen to him, and I can't do anything about that. So eventually we got the property back, and when I did get the property back, it was a lovely little 2-bed terraced house. She had 14 cats in there.
What's up, lovely people? Welcome back to another video right here on Entrepreneur Podcast Club. I'm your host, Mr. EPC. Give big, massive round of applause to my very special guest, Kerry. So, welcome to the show first and foremost, and thank you very much for your time. So, no problem. So, you are a mindset coach. So, what is a mindset coach?
So thank you firstly for inviting me on your podcast. I'm really, really happy to be here. And so it's a good question, and it's a great question to start it off with, actually. So a mindset coach means different things to different people, but my meaning behind it is for, yeah, let me put it this way. It's to I facilitate and help people to declutter and detox their mindset so that they are in the driving seat of their mindset and not in the passenger seat.
Okay. So in terms of that, let's go into a bit more detail about that. So I presume there's a lot of psychology involved in terms of, the mindset, what you do. So have you got an example as to how you've changed a client or individual's mindset in order for them to achieve their goal?
Yeah, sure. So I've worked with many, many clients, and I'm also a certified RTT hypnotherapist as well. And I think just to kind of give a little bit more context around what I do. And so RTT stands for Rapid Transformational Therapy, and that is separate. It's a separate modality to mindset coaching. But when I put them both together, both separate, but I use both tools together with people, it really helps people to discover where the blockers are, whether it's a mental blocker or an emotional blocker. And it really helps to identify the blockage. And we work together to become solution focused to overcome whatever it is that's holding people back. So just to put some context around that, how it's helped people. So I've got a property background, and I work with mostly people in property, so entrepreneurial business mindset people. And now sometimes people get stuck. They either want to start doing some live videos, they want to start scaling up their business, or it might be people that are just starting the property journey and feel out of their depth. They feel like they've got limiting beliefs. They feel like they're scared of success, believe it or not. There's a lot of fear around failure. And there's also a lot about money that comes up whenever I work with people. So I do a money mindset blueprint program as well. So how I help people is we discover what it is that people are stuck at. What is the blockage? So let's just say they have a negative blueprint towards money. Well, that's going to be a significant blocker, whether you're in a property business or any business at all. So what it might look like if someone has a negative money blueprint, it will look something similar to this. They won't be able to put any offers out on deals. They won't want to start viewing deals because in their mind, I don't have the money, or I don't know where to get it from, or I don't want to lose it. So there'll be all these kind of thoughts that will be going on around. So it will just keep people still. They'll be reluctant to even take the very next step. So what we'll do is we'll discover together what it is that's formed that belief that perhaps money is I don't know about you, Imran, and anyone that's listening. Whenever I was growing up, money was a scarce asset in our house. And whenever I'd ask my mom for money, she would say things like, "Oh, money doesn't grow on trees, you know, I'm not made of money," which I think I'm a bank. You know, did you have any kind of similar things said to you as a child?
Yeah, so there were a few instances when that was said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these core beliefs from when we're really quite young, they become our own beliefs, and this helps to form our money blueprint. So when we hold on to those beliefs in our 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s and beyond, they're not serving beliefs. So we'll work together, and I'm thinking of a client right now actually who had these beliefs. So we're working together to identify what the beliefs are, how they came around, and to basically recode those beliefs and give them an upgrade because they're no longer relevant. They might have been relevant when you were growing up, but they're no longer relevant now. So we almost detox and declutter and disconnect the emotional attachment to, okay, I might have grown up in a environment where money was not a great thing or there wasn't a lot of it, but I'm an adult now and that isn't the case right now. So it's about cleaning up and upgrading your money blueprint. And then from there, when we've given our money blueprint an upgrade, we can then confidently take the next steps. And this isn't just for people in property, this is for people who are entrepreneurial, who want to go out in the world and make it in a different way and want to set up a business or they want to scale up. Your money blueprint is mostly the thing that will hold people back. And this is what I work with a lot on people. So an example of that is I'm working with a lovely lady who has this very blocker, fear around putting offers in on properties because she doesn't have the money now. So we're really cleaning that up. And she's now putting offers in because she now knows that her limitations around money are no longer here. They're limitless. There's an abundance of money in the world. And all we need to do is to accept that, expand our awareness of knowing that there's an abundance of money out there and take action to access that. Because there's other people out there that are taking action and doing the very thing that we know we should be doing with much less knowledge and skills that we have, but they're doing it anyway. And it's because they're just taking action and they're getting out of their own way. So that's a very long-winded answer, but I hope it answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned some really great points there as well, in terms of changing the mindset and everything, especially that example as well. So, in terms of that client, is she now going ahead and putting offers in terms of property, going out viewings, a lot more confident compared to when she first started?
Yeah, 100%. So part of when I'm working with someone, when I'm working with a client, we'll set accountability targets. So I'll work with the client to say, okay, what are you comfortable doing? And whatever they say to me, oh yeah, I'm comfortable putting 2 offers out this week, I will be like, okay, what's uncomfortable? Because as you know, Imran, nothing happens in the comfort zone. So as a mindset coach, I feel it's my um, almost I only win when the clients win. So if they say, oh, I'm happy to do 2 viewings a week, I'm like, oh, okay, how do you feel about 5? Oh, that feels a bit scary. Fantastic, because that's where you should be. So she's now got offers in her pipeline and she's got a target of 5 offers out per week minimum. So she's constantly now filling her pipeline, putting offers in and doing the numbers, doing the due diligence and viewing and building up relationships at the same time as well. So yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So that quote comes into mind, getting comfortable, being uncomfortable, especially when you
Yeah.
said 2 offers, then you say to her, yeah, let's try 5. So that's
Yeah.
a really good example.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you mentioned there about yourself in property as well. So let's talk about your property journey. So when did you start your property journey?
I started my journey in 2000 at the back end of 2011. And I was working in the corporate world. I was married at the time. I had children, had grandchildren at the time. So life was very, very, very busy. But something inside me, Imran, and I think for a lot of people that are in property and go out to kind of set their own businesses up, something inside me just knew that I didn't want to be an employee until I was about 110 and just keep chasing that pension, swapping, clocking in at 9, waiting for the clock to finish. And oh my God, thank God it's 5 o'clock. I really felt bad. I felt like I was wishing my life away. And I knew I wanted to do something else, but I didn't quite know what. When you're thinking, what can I do? What am I? I've got a varied skill set. I've had a million different jobs, but never really felt drawn to one thing, but I always had this dream about being able to renovate properties. But I thought it was just a pipe dream, um, until I took action and I paid £20,000, which was quite a lot back then, to do a whole 12-month program with a well-known training company. Um, and I knew that this is exactly where I needed to be. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I was massively out of my depth. It threw up loads of things I had to work on for myself. And in all honesty, I made the job quite difficult for myself because I had a really negative money blueprint. I didn't have the confidence, but I've done it a lot of the hard way. I got a lot of stuff wrong, which I learnt from as well, but I also got a lot of stuff right. And then over 4 years, just working from the ground up, sourcing my own deals, financing them, getting my hands dirty. I even got the kids involved. The kids were filling skips and doing the garden, and my son ripped out a bathroom one time and I got them all painting. I just done what it took. So it took me about 4 years till I was able to leave my corporate job, which I was 2 weeks before my 46th birthday when I semi-retired, and it was property that did that for me. But I did work hard for 4 years.
Okay, fantastic. So many congratulations on your successes in property within the
Oh,
first 4 years and currently as well.
yeah. What about the pitfalls? Because there was a few of those as well.
Yeah, let's talk about some of the pitfalls because it's not all
Oh,
sunny days, is it, in terms of property or
well,
business?
no, I think whatever business you're in, people only ever show you the fluffy, colourful stuff. But there were times when I thought, oh my goodness, how am I going to do this? How am I going to get over that? And some of the pitfalls were, um, saying I'm going to be a cash buyer, and then in the run up to me being a cash buyer, the funds didn't all come in at the right time, or people were like, oh no, we can't lend you that. So that is stressful. But I think once you've got your mindset in being on the other side of your goal, of your outcome, which is very much what I do, and I teach and share everybody else how to do that. So if that was my goal and I'm only working up towards my goal, I've already created a limitation with this. So if my goal has gone and I'm focused on the outcome, which is here, and I'm working to putting myself beyond the goal, there's no limitation. And that's what I learned to do. And this is what I teach and share with other people. So I'm already putting myself in achieving the goal, and it's a different energy, it's a different mindset, it's a different feeling. And so I learned to do that. So it made me more solution focused. So rather than thinking, oh my life, everything's gone, everything's a mess, I've got loads of problems to solve. When you put yourself beyond the goal, you're like, okay, I'm now solution focused. You instruct your mind to be solution focused. So then you are finding solutions rather than problems and hurdles. And I learned to do that the very hard way. So then you do find, okay, well, I need an extra 10 grand. Let's get solution focused in finding that. So that was some of the hurdles. And, people had one tenant that didn't pay the rent for 18 months during COVID, and I had to go right the way up to done the eviction process. There was a backlog at that time, and then I had to get a high court writ to evict her, which I didn't want to do that because she'd always been a great tenant, but she'd met a guy that told her otherwise, and she chose to listen to him, and I can't do anything about that. So eventually we got the property back. And she had, when I did get the property back, it was a lovely little two-bed terraced house. She had 14 cats in there.
Wow.
Yeah, you can imagine when I got inside, it wasn't a pretty state. So yeah, that story. I did get the house back and then I renovated it and then sold it. That cost me 20 grand. She and it's just the pitfall. So you have to just kind of you have to take the rough with the smooth. But luckily, there's only been one of those instances, which I feel really lucky about. I feel grateful for that.
Okay, sorry to hear that you had to go through that.
Yeah,
So,
but I learned a lot. There's always a lesson in everything. So it was stressful
100%.
at the time, but you just have to take the lessons from it.
Yeah. So let's talk about the eviction process here in the UK. In terms of that, you said the tenant hadn't paid for 18 months.
Yeah.
I mean, as a landlord, you're out of pocket, and people that watch all these watch the TV, are they like, oh yeah, the landlord, it doesn't matter, but it has a huge impact on the actual landlord in terms of how long the process takes. Very long-winded process.
Yeah.
The landlord is out of pocket. So, how did you feel emotionally during that process?
I that particular tenant, I'd worked with her. So when she was having financial struggles, I'd say, well, okay, I'll work with you to help you to kind of, this is when I manage the property myself. Um, I'll work with you and I'll help you to, you know, kind of stay in the property. And she was a really great tenant. And then she met this guy, and then he obviously told her otherwise and said, you don't need to pay the rent, blah, 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 blah. And I was actually, you do think, well, okay, if this is your choice, then that's your choice. You can't influence people. I still tried to work with her, but it was made quite difficult. And then if you if you've been in if anyone that's listening that's been in that situation, you know that the parameters in which the landlord then can work are very, very slim. So you can't keep messaging them and text because that's then deemed as potential harassment. So I just had to accept that there was nothing else that I could do at this point. I tried to work with her, she'd chosen not to. I did say I'm going to have to go down the eviction route. I'd rather not, I'd rather work with you. So I kept giving her the option. Then you get to a point where you think, well, she's made her choice. I'm going to have to make mine. So then I instructed a really great guy, Nicholas Gordon. If anyone has worked with him, he's absolutely fantastic. Really great guy that deals with evictions, and he was just so good. So he then started the legal process, and they had the first notice, the second notice that they ignored, and then I had to get a High Court writ to get the bailiff to come out. I had to then meet the bailiff at the property, and then they evicted them within the hour. So everything was all kind of taken out of the property within that hour. I changed the locks and you get it back. But that during COVID, that was a really tricky time because there was a backlog. So that whole thing took 18 months and it is stressful. However, it's part of the business. It's just like being, let's say if you've got an ice cream business and it rains for 6 months, not many people are going to want to eat ice creams during the rainy months. It's just the nature of the business, and you can't take it personal.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
mm,
And yeah, okay, fantastic. So let's talk a bit about yourself in terms of where were you born and bred, whether you went to university. You mentioned your corporate background and all
mm,
the million jobs that you mentioned that you worked. So
yeah.
let's talk a bit about that.
Haven't got time to list all of those jobs in one. There's so many. Um, joking aside, yeah, so I'm Birmingham born and bred. I'm one of the eldest of three children, brought up on council estates. We moved around quite a lot. My mum and dad were great people, but they both had drink problems. So we were always moving around, always kind of like in South Birmingham. So I I trained as my very first job actually was working in a cardboard box factory in Kings Heath. Yeah, so I was 15 and I was like, yeah, it's going to be exciting. I'm going to get my own job. I'm going to have money. I'm going to move to London and have an amazing life. I always had this fantasy about moving to London. Still hasn't happened yet, but it might. So I started off working in a cardboard box factory where I had to take a big sheet of cardboard, put it into a press and push it down, and that was it, and put it on a pile. And I remember feeling very disillusioned, thinking, oh my goodness, is this what it's all about? So quite early on, I knew that I was not cut out for 9 to 5 working. But then I started a family quite young. So I was 17 when I had my son. So I didn't have time to be entrepreneurial. I just had to be a mum. And and that was very, very busy. So it wasn't until I then got a little bit older, I figured out what I wanted to do for myself. So then I trained as a social worker, which is why I've got a psychology and sociology background. I trained as a social worker and then kind of figured out again that that's really still not for me because there was so much bureaucracy and red tape that you had to work within. And I thought, how can I really help people when there's such narrow parameters? And then I thought, this isn't for me either. So, in amongst all of that time, I've done a lot of sales and marketing, a lot of promotion work. I worked at the NEC quite a lot. I was a hairdresser, which I really, really enjoyed. I worked in a chip shop.
Okay.
So juggling the mum duties, 2 children at that time. I had a chip shop job, which I really loved because I'm very much a people person. I love working with people. And then eventually I realized that in order to get a great credit reference, which is so important to anyone in business, I needed to have a consistent, regular, good income. So then I thought, okay, how do I do that? And then I started work my way up and got a job in the corporate world. And I was there for probably 12 years until I still had that feeling. And anyone that's listening that has got that feeling that you just don't want to work for someone, you want to be creative. It's that sense of freedom and being able to have the choice. And when we have a corporate job, you might earn, I think I only ever earned about 30,000 was my maximum. There's always a ceiling limit on what you can earn, and I didn't want that. So I still had that feeling that there's more for me out there. And then, as we said from the very beginning of the podcast, I discovered property and I've never ever looked back. What I did then during that 4 years, I became a co-host and founder of a property networking event in Solihull. And then I started to coach new investors on the strategies, teaching them the strategies and just sharing, teaching them what I'd done. I'm a very big believer in walking your talk. Imran, there's a lot of people out there that teach you to do something, but they've never done it themselves or they're not doing. And that for me is not aligned with my core values. And then from that, I realized that you can teach the strategies, but unless people have got their mindset right and they've worked out the core of it, which is the money blueprint. Do they deserve to have success? Do they deserve to have a thriving business? I felt like I could serve people in a much, much better way. So that's where my mindset coaching and then I qualified as a certified hypnotherapist. And this is where my coaching business was created. And I still actively invest as well. I'm buying something as we speak. So I can speak from experience and I can really connect with the ups and downs, the highs and lows of property. And there's greatness in all of it. And I can also help people through the mindset journey because I've been on it myself for the last 12 years.
Okay, fantastic. Some really good points that you mentioned there,
Mm.
especially with the training point that you made. Because on social media, there's a lot of people that make out, if you see their profile, it's like they're investing in property fully, but all they've done is one property, and then they try
Yeah.
to sell all these courses. So let's say someone's trying to get started in property, what due diligence can they take to ensure that the person that's going to train him is certified and has done the walking and the talking?
Yeah, that is a really great question because you've got people that are shouting loud on social media. You're always going to get those people. So they're shouting loud, their posts are great, um the message that they're giving out is really loud and looks all professional. But I think it's about, and this is good practice in every walk of life, to not just take things at face value. So if someone is speaking to you and you resonate with them, really do some research, connect with your network and say, has anybody worked with this person? Can I get some testimonials? Put it on your Facebook. Say, I'm looking at doing some property education with this person. Can anyone tell me what your experience has been like? And be bold, don't kind of think, oh no, I can't say that. You can say that. So if you're going to be handing over, I don't know, 2, 5, 10, 20,000 pounds to work with someone, you want to know that you're working with the best possible person in the industry within your budget and within your geographical space to be able to get the maximum gain and the maximum outcome that you can. Because the worst thing in the world is to go into something that you feel is authentic and then you find out that it isn't, because that can knock your confidence, or it can make you much, much wiser. But ask around, ask the right questions, ask to speak to other people who've worked with that person as well, or with that company. And I would say network, go to lots of networking meetings if you're just starting off in property. They say your network is your net worth, and speak to people there, speak to people that are doing the very thing that you want to do. Hang out with those people and find out where they got their education from. Take your time. It's all very exciting when there's this big emotional sell. Oh, you can leave your job in 5 minutes and you can earn 1 million in 10 minutes. We've all heard it, haven't we? And you all get very excited. I've done it myself. I've been that person who's ran to the back of the room and signed the thing in my early days. And that's okay, but take your time and really do your due diligence. And as we know, due diligence is a massive key in property. You need to do your due diligence, not just on a property deal, but you've got to do it on the people as well. So start as you mean to go off, do your due diligence, ask questions. Don't be scared to ask questions, and ask for feedback from other people that might have worked with these companies or individuals.
Yeah, some really good advice there. So
Mm.
if anyone is looking to get into property, just make sure you consider the points that Kerry has just mentioned just there. So
Yeah.
let's talk about, because you all about mindset. What books do you read in order to increase your knowledge about the mindset, property, etc.?
Well, I loved that one of the books that I read years ago. Obviously, Rich Dad Poor Dad was the very, very first book that I ever read. And he writes in it's an easy way and a simplistic form that it just does what it says on the tin. So anyone that's just starting off, definitely read Rich Dad Poor Dad or anything from Robert Kiyosaki. The second book that I read, which was so fantastic for mindset, was The Chimp Paradox. Now that really explains how your mind works. So you start to understand. He talks about the good chimp and the naughty chimp. And the good chimp is saying, "Oh yeah, go on, do that, say yes, take action." And the naughty chimp might be saying, "Oh, you don't want to do that because what if that happens? Oh, and what if this happens?" And we've all had those conversations and that internal dialogue. And that's just a tiny snippet of that book. But the Chimp Paradox is a really, really good book for understanding how your mind works. Um, I've also written a book actually, which I really should plug here. It's called The Fear Recode, and it's all about everything that I teach and share, cats just captured into one very easy to read book. And it's about becoming taking you from a fearful mindset into a fearless mindset. And everything that I teach and share on my 8-week program is all about becoming the master of your mindset, because we don't really understand how powerful our minds are, and we're not using them to the fullest capacity. So when we start to understand how the mind works and we understand how to become the master, be in the driving seat of the mindset, and we become the instructor of the mindset, it is honestly a massive, massive game changer. But this isn't taught in schools. It's not even taught in colleges and universities. But the way I teach and share is I simplify it. I keep everything simple. We don't need to overcomplicate anything. So yeah, that's my book as well. And then also in terms of tasks. So sometimes we can get quite overwhelmed with a task and we just don't know where to start. So another really great book, and it's a simple, really small book. I like simple books with big text.
Yeah.
And Eat That Frog is a really great book for it's all about doing the biggest task first. Because what we tend to do is we're all becoming dopamine junkies these days. We all want quick wins, quick wins, quick wins, and it's all to do with these telephones. They're fantastic, but we become. I mean, how many times a day are we checking our notifications? How many times a day are we checking WhatsApp and social media and emails? Because we're seeking this dopamine hit. So we tend to want to do the smaller jobs first, the smaller tasks first, because we get the quick wins and the dopamine. Whereas Eat That Frog talks about doing the biggest task first, because that's where we're going to get the most value. And another book is The Compound Effect. That's a really great book. It's about taking consistent action day by day by day by day by day, 1%, 1%, 1% every single day, so that you get the rewards. Because what people tend to do, and we're all guilty of it, we'll be like, oh, I don't feel like doing this today, so I'll just do double tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes and sends something else more shiny and appealing comes along. Whereas even if we did like half an hour researching, looking for property deals every single day, by the time the end of that week's done, we've done 7 lots of half an hour. And I mean, I do weekend. I work. My children have grown up now, so Saturday and Sunday, I will still do what I'm doing, because what I do now doesn't even feel like work. I just enjoy it that much. So yeah, there's some really great books to start off with there, and there's loads of book. I've actually got a book list that I can send to you, so you could send out to other people as well.
Yeah, that'd be great. Some really good books there and what you mentioned. So we'll put Kerry's social media links in the description box below and the link for her book as well.
Oh, thank you.
No problem. And that is it, ladies and gentlemen, for this podcast. I've been your host, Mr. EPC. Big shout out to Kerry for taking the time out to speak to me today. And do look out for the next podcast. And thank you very much for watching.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
No problem.